Anatomically, the nerves are bundles of neuron axons, blood vessels, and the connective tissues that hold them together. The nerves emerge from either the brain or the spinal cord. The nerves that emerge from the brain are the cranial nerves, while those that emerge from the spinal cord are appropriately named the spinal nerves. The epineurium is an outer layer of connective tissue that surrounds the entire nerve structure. Within the nerves, the individual axons of neurons are bundled together by connective tissues into clusters that are called fascicles. The perineurium is a connective tissue sheath that surrounds one fascicle. The endoneurium is a delicate layer of areolar connective tissue and capillaries that surround each axon within the fascicle. Figure 13.21 examines the basic structure of nerves. The endoneurium is a delicate areolar connective tissue membrane that wraps each individual axon. Axons are bundled into clusters called fascicles, with the perineurium serving as the connective tissue that wraps each fascicle. Scattered blood vessels are found between the fascicles within the nerve. All of the blood vessels and fascicles within the nerve are bound together by the superficial epineurium. Cranial nerves are specifically the nerves that emerge from the brain. They function to transmit sensory information to the brain, motor commands from brain structures, or both. Sensory neurons within the nerve will communicate sensory information, while motor neurons within the nerve will communicate with muscles or glands. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves that emerge from the brain. Cranial nerves 1, 2, and 8 are the sensory cranial nerves. Cranial nerve 1 is the olfactory nerve, as it transmits olfactory sensory information from the nasal cavity to the brain. Cranial nerve 2 is the optic nerve, as it carries visual sensory information from the retina of the eye to the brain. And cranial nerve 8 is the vestibulocochlear nerve. It transmits sensory information from two structures. The first structure is called the vestibule of the inner ear, which senses balance and body position. Auditory sensory information from a second structure called the cochlea is transmitted to the brain by the cochlear branch of the vestibulocochlear nerve. Cranial nerves 3, 4, 6, 11, and 12 are the motor cranial nerves. Cranial nerve 3 is the oculomotor nerve. It transmits voluntary motor commands to a few of the skeletal muscles surrounding the eye and therefore controls eye movements. It also transmits motor commands to the smooth muscle of the iris of the eye in order to change pupil diameter. Cranial nerve 4 is the trochlear nerve, and cranial nerve 6 is the abducens nerve. Both of these nerves transmit voluntary motor commands to some of the skeletal muscles surrounding the eyes in order to control eye movement. Cranial nerve 11 is the accessory nerve, which is sometimes also referred to as the spinal accessory nerve. It carries motor commands to the skeletal muscles that control movements of the head, the neck, and the shoulders. Cranial nerve 12 is the hypoglossal nerve, which controls tongue movements during speaking, chewing, and swallowing. And this ends our review of the motor cranial nerves. The remaining cranial nerves that we'll examine, which are cranial nerves 5, 7, 9, and 10, are the mixed cranial nerves because they have both sensory and motor functions and therefore possess both sensory and motor neurons within them. Cranial nerve 5 is the trigeminal nerve, which is a nerve that branches extensively throughout the face and the head. Its sensory functions include sensing touch, temperature, and pain on the face and the teeth. One of the branches of this nerve is the branch that is numbed by dentists when performing dental work. Its motor functions include controlling the skeletal muscles that are involved with chewing. Cranial nerve 7 is called the facial nerve, which is another nerve that's like the trigeminal nerve that branches extensively through the face and through the head. Its sensory functions include the sense of taste from the tongue, while its motor functions include activating the salivary glands to produce saliva in the mouth, activating the lacrimal glands to produce tears on the eye surface, and controlling the skeletal muscles on the face that are involved in creating facial expressions. Cranial nerve 9 is the glossopharyngeal nerve. Its sensory functions include sensing touch, temperature, and taste from the tongue and the pharynx. The pharynx is a muscular passage that food is directed into from the oral cavity. Its motor functions include movement of the skeletal muscles of the tongue and the pharynx during swallowing. Cranial nerve 10 is the vagus nerve, which is an unusual cranial nerve since it is the only cranial nerve to have functions beyond the head and the neck. Its sensory functions include sensing stimuli from the digestive and urinary systems. Its motor functions include controlling heart rate, breathing rate, and the contraction of the smooth muscle that's found within the walls of the digestive system organs and structures.